Dear students, in this video, we are going to see how to study different types of microorganisms and also their different activities and their different roles in various fields. So all these different roles they play and all these different activities they carry out are studied under different branches of microbiology. So that is what we are going to see in this presentation. There are no hard and fast rules that we need to study the branches of microbiology in a specific way. So for our convenience, for our easy understanding, I have divided these branches into four categories. First is, based on the types of microorganisms which are studied, we have a few branches of microbiology. So that will be coming under the first category. Second is, what role they play in different areas where they are present. Are they harmful? Are they beneficial? Do they have any other function? So based on the roles, we have certain branches. So that will come under the second category. And the third category is, we know that microbes are present everywhere. So depending on the environment where they live, we have the third branch that is based on their habitat. But there are a few branches, few studies, which cannot be considered under any of these three categories, which are some related fields towards microbiology. So that will be explained in the end, that is under the fourth category. So based on the type of microorganism that is being studied, we have 5 different branches, major branches of microbiology. Those are bacteriology, virology, mycology, phycology, and protozoology. We will see one by one now. The first one is bacteriology. So as the name suggests, the study of bacteria, one of the important groups of microorganisms, is called bacteriology. The study of bacteria is called bacteriology. Basically, what we will be studying under this category is, what are the different types of bacteria we have, based on their shape, based on their structure, based on their metabolism, based on their genetics. So depending on all that, we have different groups of bacteria. So that will be studied in detail. And of course, if you go further, what type of role they have in the environment, that also can be considered under this branch. Now, basically, bacteria are prokaryotic unicellular microorganism. We already know that their size is very small, so we call them as microorganism. And what is the other two word means? First is prokaryotic. That means they don't have a proper nucleus inside their cytoplasm. They have only a structure called a nucleoid or chromosome present dispersed in the cytoplasm. They don't have a proper nucleus. Proper nucleus in the sense, the chromosomes which is bound inside a nuclear membrane with nucleolus. Such a defined structure is not seen in the bacterial cells, and that is why they are called prokaryotic. Next is, they are usually present in singles. They are not in a complex organization. They are present in single cells. As you can see here in this picture, you see blue color and pink color rods. So all these are single bacterial cells that are usually seen in nature. So that is what this particular term means, prokaryotic unicellular microorganism. Friends, if you see the variety and the number of bacteria, it is mind-boggling. In fact, there are more than 10 million bacterial species. So you have so much to study. If you in your studies, if you take just even one bacterial species and start studying, 3 years will not be enough. That much amount of information is available. That much amount of information can be collected for one particular bacterial species. And what type of roles they have in nature? There are bacteria which cause diseases. There are bacteria which cause spoilage of food. There are also beneficial bacteria like those which carry out fermentation of food, and there are also bacteria which carry out a very important function in the environment, that is decomposition of organic matter. So those are the basic details that a person who is studying microbiology should be knowing about bacteria. If you have this basic, with this you can carry on with your studies in microbiology very easily. The second branch of microbiology is virology, which is about study of viruses. Friends, I am very sure that you will be very much interested in studying this field because of the present condition. But this particular study is not very easy to learn, because when you compare with other microorganisms, the size of viruses are still smaller. They are in nanometer sizes, not even in micrometer sizes. So studying them is going to be very complex, but again very interesting. What you're seeing here is the influenza virus picture, and this is not a normal microscopic photograph. This is a electron microscopic photograph, which is going to magnify the size of the image up to 10,000 to 40,000 times. So that much magnification is necessary to even just see the viruses. Now, the basic details about viruses is, the first and foremost, when you say virus, what you should be knowing is they are obligate intracellular parasites. What is meant by this? The first term you should be knowing is parasites. That means they cannot live freely in the environment wherever they are. They need a living cell for their survival. It could be a plant cell, it could be an animal cell, or a human cell, or even a bacterial cell. Some kind of living cell should be present for the survival of these viruses. This is the first thing, that is why they are called parasites. Second term what you are seeing here is intracellular parasite. That means when they depend on a living cell, they have to enter inside that living cell and survive there. They cannot depend on the living cell from outside. They have to enter inside the living cell. That is why they are called intracellular parasites. Then the third important term is they are obligate intracellular parasites. That means if and only if the living cells are there, they can survive. In the absence of living cells, they cannot multiply, they cannot survive. Or instead of obligate, you can add another term called strict. Strict intracellular parasites or obligate intracellular parasites. Friends, you have to remember this term whenever anybody talks about viruses. Obligate intracellular parasites. The next important point is they do not come under any of the two important categories, that is prokaryotic or eukaryotic. That means you cannot consider them even as a prokaryotic cell. We forget about eukaryotic cell. Eukaryotic cell is an improvised version of a cell, living cell, or a higher form of life. It is not even a prokaryotic cell. Why? See the next point. They cannot even be considered as living. When do we call an organism living? Only when they can live actively, freely in an environment independently, right? Since they cannot even live independently without a living cell, they come under a borderline between living and non-living. You cannot completely call them as non-living, because if they get a living cell, they can multiply and grow, right? So they come under a borderline category between living and non-living. Now, when you take a virus and study what are the different components it has, you will be surprised or shocked, because only two components are there. If you take any virus, only two components are there. So simple yet so dangerous, right? What are those two components? First one is they have a protein coat, which is called capsid usually. So they just have a protein coat like this, and inside that protein coat you will find a single nucleic acid. And that too, they don't have both DNA and RNA like other cells. They have either DNA or RNA. They have made their life so simple that they have only these two components, a protein coat and a nucleic acid inside, and that too the nucleic acid will be either DNA or RNA. Now, the main thing about viruses is they are mostly disease causing agents. They cause diseases in plants and animals, including human beings. Now, the next branch you should be knowing is mycology. This is the study of fungi. This is a slightly higher form of life when compared to bacteria and viruses. They are eukaryotic. We saw that bacteria are prokaryotic, viruses are neither prokaryotic nor eukaryotic, whereas this fungi is eukaryotic in nature, and they are achlorophyllous organism. That means they cannot carry out photosynthesis. This is to differentiate between fungi and algae, the next group. This is to differentiate between bacteria and fungi. Bacteria is prokaryotic, fungi is eukaryotic, whereas algae is photosynthetic, fungi is non-photosynthetic. That is why it is also called a achlorophyllous organism. It does not contain chlorophyll, so they will not carry out photosynthesis. The next point about fungi is there are two major forms of fungi you will observe. One is unicellular forms, the other one is multicellular forms. You already know the terms. Unicellular means they exist as single cells, whereas multicellular means many cells will attach together to form a multicellular structure, a mycelium or a hyphae, whatever. You will learn all that later in detail. So both these forms are present in nature. So unicellular forms are usually called yeasts, whereas multicellular forms are usually called molds. Your Saccharomyces, or which you will be knowing already, Candida, which you have heard before, all these come under this category of unicellular forms. Whereas the Rhizopus, the Aspergillus, the Penicillium, you would have heard about those organisms. They all come under the multicellular forms or molds. What is the significance of studying this fungi? Why should we study? The main reason is they also have different roles to play in the environment. Some of them cause diseases both in plants and animals and human beings. Some of them are responsible for spoilage of different types of foods. Some of the fungi also can carry out fermentation of foods. And they are also, just like bacteria, they are also main organisms responsible for organic matter decomposition in the soil. So that is a little about fungi. The next branch is phycology, which is called study of algae, especially the microalgae. We do not study the macroscopic algae here in microbiology, which you will be studying in botany, whereas microalgae, microscopic algae will be studied here mainly. So study of algae is called phycology. So a little about algae is they are eukaryotic just like fungi. Eukaryotic means they have a definite nucleus. They have proper chromosomes which is bound inside a nuclear membrane with nucleolus. All these will be present in the cytoplasm. A distinct structure will be there inside the cytoplasm, and that is why they are called eukaryotic. And another important point you should be remembering about algae is they are autotrophic organisms. That means they can synthesize their own food. Or you can also use the term photosynthetic here for the same function. They can carry out photosynthesis and can synthesize their own food without depending on any external sources for carbon or nitrogen or for any other mineral substances. So that is about a little about algae. And the last branch under this category is protozoology, which is about the study of another important microorganism, that is protozoa. What we should be knowing about protozoa at this stage is they are free living, or they may be present in association with plants or animals. They are like controlling agents in the environment. They feed on algae or bacteria. So whenever in an environment, whenever the population of algae or bacteria goes out of control, they become too much in number, at that time the protozoans are going to come, they feed on the algae and bacteria, control their numbers. So that controlling activity is mainly carried out by these particular group, protozoans. And not only that, they also are responsible in causing diseases in human beings. And you must have heard these diseases already: malaria, leishmaniasis, amoebic dysentery, African sleeping sickness. So these groups are also have a very important role. Uh, so they have to be studied in detail. So these are the 5 branches based on the type of microorganism. Okay, so based on their role, we have again 5 different branches of microbiology. Among that, the first one is medical microbiology. Now, as we have seen already under the history of microbiology, scientists' interest towards microorganisms, their discovery, it is all based on this particular branch. When people started researching on how the diseases are caused and what is the responsible for causing these diseases, they started isolating different specimens, and from that they started seeing these tiny organisms under the microscope, right? So from there, the branch of medical microbiology started having a lot of significance. Now, medical microbiology basically deals with pathogenic microorganisms. Pathogenic means disease-causing microorganisms. Exclusively, the pathogens are studied under this category, not any other organism. So, what do we study? We are going to study different types of diseases. It could be cholera, or it could be hepatitis, or AIDS, or malaria, or candidiasis. You can study any disease under this category. And when you talk about one particular disease, what we should be knowing is, first is, what is the organism which causes it, which is called etiology. What are their different characteristics? How do they look? How do they grow in different media? All these characters we will be studying. And then what are the symptoms of a disease? Because each and every disease has its own typical symptoms. Cholera symptoms will not be similar to malaria symptoms, right? So different symptoms will be studied. And the next is pathogenesis. What is meant by this? See, pathogenesis means how the organism enters inside the body, through which route it enters, where does it go and get itself established inside the body, how do they grow in this particular site. It could be a respiratory tract, or a genital tract, or a vaginal tract, or a gastrointestinal tract. So in that particular site, how do they establish themselves, and what do they do in that site? And how do they finally enter inside the blood? If at all they enter, how do they enter inside the blood? And what are the various symptoms we are going to see? So that will be dealt with in pathogenesis. Next is laboratory diagnosis. Now the person is already suffering from the disease. How are we going to detect which organism is responsible for the disease? Which specimens we are going to take? What are the various tests we are going to carry out? And how are we going to see the results? All these will be studied under laboratory diagnosis. Next is epidemiology. Epidemiology means how this particular pathogen spreads in the environment. Does it spread from a person to a person? Does it spread through air? Does it spread through water, through blood? All this, and how fast it spreads, and which population is usually sensitive to this disease, who are resistant to this disease. All these details will be studied under epidemiology. Next is treatment. So what type of drugs we need to give to the person who is suffering from the disease? What type of other care should be taken to treat the person, to make the person cured from the disease? So that is studied under treatment. And prevention is, before a person gets a disease, how are we going to protect him from the disease? That is prevention, or we also call it as prophylaxis. So under this, we will be studying different types of vaccines. Whether we have vaccines or not, if they are there, how are we going to inject it, how many doses we are going to give, what are the different types of vaccines that we can use. All these will be studied under prophylaxis or prevention. So that is about medical microbiology. The next branch under this category is agricultural microbiology. We are going to study the microorganisms that are used in different agricultural practices. Because when we grow plants, we want the plants to grow healthy, to grow faster, and to give good results, right? So for that, naturally there are many microorganisms present in the soil which do all these functions, which help in plants to grow better and to grow in a healthy way, and also to give good harvest. But nowadays, we have studied so much about the role of microorganisms in soil that we have started exploiting their role in nature. We have started growing them in very large numbers and started using them for different purposes. What are the different purposes? Mainly, we use them as biofertilizers or biopesticides. Biofertilizers are those microorganisms which add nutrients to the soil so that plants can grow better. Biopesticides are those microorganisms which protect the plant from different pests. I hope you know what pests are. So to protect the plants from pests, we can use the role of certain microorganisms, and those are called microbial pesticides or biopesticides. So does that mean microbes have only beneficial role to play in agriculture? No. There are many microorganisms which are harmful also. We call them as plant pathogens. There are microbial populations which affect plant in a negative way. So in agricultural microbiology, we also do research, we also study about how to control these microorganisms which cause harm to the plants. So that is about agricultural microbiology. The next is industrial microbiology. It is about the study of microorganisms that have a role in industrial production. We use different microorganisms in large-scale production of substances like acids and alcohols. You might have studied about breweries where sugarcane byproducts are being used as raw materials for the production of alcohol. In turn, these alcohols are used in the manufacture of alcoholic beverages like brandy, whiskey, ale, and all these different beverages are manufactured in industries using microorganisms. Especially yeast is used in this particular field. Same way, different types of organic acids like citric acid, lactic acid, all these are manufactured in the industries with the help of microorganisms that carry out acid fermentation. So it's like this, we will be studying about the different types of microorganisms, their metabolic pathways, and how they can be exploited in the manufacture of different types of products. All these are studied under this particular branch. The next is food microbiology. It is about the study of microorganisms that is present associated with different types of food. Now, when a microorganism grows on a food, it can cause three different changes. The first one is undesirable change, that is food spoilage. They will change the nature of the food so that it cannot be consumed by the human beings anymore. So that is food spoilage. Second, again, is a negative effect, that is foodborne diseases. The food might not have changed its character, but when you consume it, you will get some kind of a disease. So that is foodborne diseases. Third is a positive effect, that is food fermentation. When some microorganisms, when they grow in food, they carry out an activity called fermentation, which in turn will make the food even more desirable or even more healthier to eat or even more nutritious to eat. So these three effects they usually have when they grow in the food. So we can study about the different types of spoilages, different types of foodborne diseases, and also different types of food fermentations under this branch. There is another branch which can be considered under the same category, that is dairy microbiology. Here we will be studying exclusively about the microorganisms that grows in milk and results in different types of milk products, dairy products. So that comes under dairy microbiology, because that itself can be studied extensively for a lot of period. So that can be considered separately here as dairy microbiology. And the last branch under this particular category is pharmaceutical microbiology, which can again be considered along with industrial microbiology, because pharmaceutical industry can be classified under this also. So here what we are going to study is, we study about the different microorganisms that are used for the production of medicines like antibiotics or vaccines or different enzymes, streptokinase enzymes. So these organisms which are exploited for the production of different medicinal products are considered or studied under pharmaceutical microbiology. Now, the third category under which some of the branches are studied is based on the environment they live, or you can say based on the habitat where the microorganisms live. So the first branch under that is air microbiology. Here we are going to study the different microorganisms that is present in the air. When we say air, it could be indoor air or outdoor air. Indoor air in the sense in a closed environment, when the microorganisms are present suspended in the air, we call it as intramural microflora or indoor air microflora. So, do they have any significance? Yes, because in hospitals, especially in operation theaters, in ICUs, the presence of microorganisms have a lot of significance. And same way, if you see different types of industries where aseptic environment need to be maintained, like for example, pharmaceutical industry, complete aseptic environment should be present for the production of any pharmaceutical products. And even other industries also, contamination must be avoided, contamination from air must be avoided. So all these environments are indoor environments, whereas outdoor environments, especially the crop fields, where different types of spores will be present in the suspended state. They can move from one area to another area. They can cause different types of plant diseases. In fact, they can cause even contamination in different products also. So all these microorganisms will be studied under this particular branch. So we will see how the dispersal of disease-causing microorganisms or their spores occurs in the air, how to detect these microorganisms that is present suspended in the air, what are the various techniques we have. We have different types of air samplers. So how are we going to use that operation of all those air samplers, and also how to control these microorganisms, not only studying, also controlling. What are the different control techniques we have to manage these microorganisms and to avoid contamination in different environments. Not only the microbes, we also study different types of allergens here. Non-microbial allergens that is present in the air also can be considered under this particular branch, that is air microbiology. Next is soil microbiology. This is about the study of microorganisms that is present in the soil. See, microbes have a very important role to play in soil, both in formation of soil and also in fertility of soil. In both these areas, the role of microorganism is of utmost importance. They are the main organisms which cause decomposition of organic matter. They are the main organisms which are responsible for different biogeochemical cycles. What do I mean by that? Biogeochemical cycles. A mineral which, like carbon or a phosphorus, sulfur or nitrogen will be changed from one form to another form in the soil. Sometimes it will be present in the organic form, sometimes it will be present in the inorganic form. So the conversion of these organic to inorganic, inorganic to organic forms of minerals is very, very important for the proper utilization of these substances by different living forms. So all these conversions that takes place in the soil, that takes place in the environment, is mainly carried out by the microorganism. And that is what we call biogeochemical cycles. And because of these proper occurrence of biogeochemical cycles, the soil fertility is still present. It is not lost. And not only that, they are also exploited for bioremediation. What is this? Simply speaking, we have different types of non-degradable substances. We have different types of polluting substances accumulating in the soil. We use different types of microorganisms, or we can use different types of microorganisms to convert these harmful substances into harmless substances or beneficial substances. Both can be done. So that is what we call bioremediation. So that also is studied under the same branch. Next is aquatic microbiology, and along with that you can add another branch, that is marine microbiology. This is about the microorganism present in water, very simply speaking. So if we are going to study about the microorganisms in fresh water, that means lakes or rivers or ponds or groundwater. So if you study about these, then it is going to be coming under aquatic microbiology, whereas you can study the microflora that is present in the oceans separately as a field. So that is called marine microbiology. Why should we separate them? Because the marine water is totally different from the other freshwater environments. So that those details you will be studying under marine microbiology. So under aquatic microbiology, what and all we will be studying is what are the different types of waterborne diseases, microbial diseases. We know cholera, we know polio. So all these diseases are studied in detail, how they spread, how can we control, all these details are going to be studied. And water purification. Here, since waterborne microorganism, pathogenic microorganisms can be present, since we are going to use this water for different human purposes or domestic purposes like for drinking or for cooking, we need the water to be pure. It should be free from the pathogenic microorganisms, harmful microorganisms. So how are we going to purify them? So that also can be studied under aquatic microbiology. The last one is biological degradation of waste. We know that many different waste liquids or waste solids are dumped in ocean environments regularly, even today. So when they reach these oceans or fresh waters, again it is the microorganisms that are going to carry out the degradation of this waste. If they are given enough time, they can completely degrade the waste and make the water safe. The problem is we don't give them much time to degrade them properly. So that is studied under biological degradation of waste. So all these studies are coming under the same branch, that is aquatic microbiology and marine microbiology. And another type also can be studied under this, that is sewage microbiology. Though it is also water, we study it under the different branch called sewage microbiology. What is sewage? It is the waste water that comes out from your houses. So that is what we call sewage, or it can be from domestic sources or from industrial sources or from agricultural sources. So any waste water, the water with all the contaminations present, so any waste water, when it comes out, it shouldn't be released as such to fresh water or marine water. It should be treated first in a proper manner so that they become harmless. So, what is the nature of these wastewaters? How do they reach different types of treatment plants? What are the different steps we need to carry out so that these wastewaters or sewage water becomes harmless? All these are studied under sewage microbiology. We study the different pathogens and also how to remove these pathogens from these wastewaters. So, that comes under sewage microbiology. Now, there are certain other branches that I would like to mention here, which is usually studied along with microbiology. So, the first one among that is immunology. It is about the study of defense mechanisms that is present in our body against diseases. Whenever a microorganism or a pathogen enters the human body does not keep quiet. It gets activated. Specifically, the immune system gets activated, it starts releasing different types of substances, and it starts fighting against the disease causing microorganism. So that is what we call immunology. So under this, what are the various toxins that are produced by a pathogenic microorganism? How the antigens, you can say the pathogen stimulate the antibody production. How different types of vaccines help in fighting the diseases, because vaccine again is going to help in defense mechanism, right? So the vaccine helps, how it helps in fighting the diseases, how immune system collapses in some infections. For example, if you say AIDS or HIV infection, the immune system is not functioning properly, right? So how the immune system collapses in these situations. So all this is studied under immunology. The next branch is microbial technology, or generally it can be called biotechnology. Here we are going to talk about a totally different type of microbial population called genetically engineered microorganisms. These are not natural microorganisms. The human beings have done certain changes in the microorganisms for his own benefit, for his own purpose. So those microorganisms are called genetically engineered microorganisms. They have different functions to play. They will carry genes from one species to another species so that we can get transgenic plants or transgenic animals. Microorganisms can be used, genetically engineered microorganisms can be used to produce certain drugs. For example, you might have heard about genetically engineered insulin, humulin. So these are produced by genetically engineered microorganisms. So all these functions are being dealt with in microbial technology. That means we are going to use microorganism in technology. Next is geochemical microbiology. Here we specifically talk about the role of microorganism in the formation of coal, gas and minerals. So this is again can be considered under environmental microbiology. But again, since we have so much knowledge about this particular field, it can be considered under a separate branch called geochemical microbiology. Here we talk about the recovery of minerals, especially from low-grade ores. This is done using certain specific microorganisms, and it also can be called biomining. The last branch, a very recent branch I would like to add here, is exomicrobiology or astromicrobiology. What is this? It is about the study of microorganisms in outer space. So astrobiologists search for life other than on Earth in different planets in the space. And they mainly focus on microbial life. Why? Because they are very small and they are very simple. So if at all life comes in other planets, it will be starting from microorganisms. And microbes are able to grow in any environment. They can grow in the presence of oxygen or in the absence of oxygen, at a very high temperature or at a very high pH or at a very high salt concentration. There are microbes which can grow in all these adverse environments. So when we say about different planets where adverse environments are present, where life cannot exist, even in those environments, microorganisms can survive and grow. So people who search for life in other planets usually first will be searching for the microorganisms. And not only that, these microbes, since being very small and very light, they can be easily carried in the air. So they can be easily transported to very long distances at a very long period of time. So because of that, from the Earth, microorganisms could have entered space, could have entered other planets. So people are studying all these possibilities. So that comes under exomicrobiology or astromicrobiology. So with this, I am going to end with the different branches of microbiology. Hope it is easy for you to understand. Thank you.